Well, hi, InStat viewers. It gives me great pleasure to announce to you today that we invited Pete Shuttleworth from Birmingham City to attend our webinar. And Pete's with us today, and it's a great pleasure to have him on board. Pete, how are things working from home from time to time, as well as the training ground at this point in time?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a different time, hasn't it? It's things are getting back to normal at the minute with a lot of time back in, but we've got 8 games to cover for the rest of the season, so we're quite busy, as you can imagine, at the minute. So
yeah, I think that's the difficulty. A lot of the games will need to be condensed into a short space of time, so your work will be cut out, and that's another reason why, again, we're happy that you've given us the time, because we know you're a busy man. But can you perhaps even tell us your football journey, which roles you've been at, and how you've developed and settled into your role at Birmingham City?
Yeah, of course. It's a slightly different route into analysis, really, from the traditional university, analysis degrees, masters in analysis. Bit of a different route. I was a PE teacher for 15 years, a secondary PE teacher at a school in Derbyshire, and alongside that, I worked as a non-league manager, non-league assistant manager. So, was brought up in coaching. Got my coaching badges when I was at university, and went into that way, really. So it worked quite nicely alongside the teaching career. And then 5 years now, I was asked to go and work as a part-time recruitment scout at Birmingham. It was when Gary Rowett was in charge, so going back a fair way now. So I went in and did that. So we're still teaching, and then tried to balance that as well. And then luckily, 3 years ago, that journey took me to become head of analysis. There was a role there. A new director of football came in who I met very randomly, actually, on the circuit watching a game together. I didn't know anything about him, and we started talking, actually, and he was coming into Birmingham, and I was already working there part-time. And we struck a relationship, and next thing, the head of analysis, he asked me if I'd go and front up the department and go in that way. So completely different route into it, coaching into recruitment, into analysis. And, I'm not scared to admit that first year was really tough, trying to learn a lot of the skills associated with it, and as well as managing, people in departments. And luckily I'm still there 3 years later. I've seen a number of staff across the football club come and go. I think I'm on my 5th manager in those 3 years. So the big skill that I've had to take with me from education is being adaptable. I've had to be really adaptable over the different managers we've had and the different periods we've had over that 3 years. But yeah, not a traditional route, but I'm here, enjoying it and learning on the go, really.
Well, I think that's also important. Most people learn on the job anyway, regardless of which background you've come from. And in actual fact, I think the background that you have is important, because you've got a rounded approach, knowing how to approach perhaps analysis from a coach's point of view, or understand how a coach and a manager would think. And also, it's testament to the club or the structure. As you pointed out, managers can come and go, but it's really important to have stability within a football club, and that continuity is very important. So again, it's a testament to your role and the club in general. It can hold the structure together. Could you perhaps tell us more about your role at Birmingham, what it entails, and the job that you do at the club?
Yeah, so I think my official title is Head of Tactical Analysis. It used to be Head of Analysis, but obviously performance came into that. So we changed the title a few years ago. So that has it all depends on the manager that you work with. Sometimes the role of Head Analysis is a really embedded one with the manager, the coaching team, the players, etc. Other times it might be a little bit more distant, but luckily in my 3 years I worked with some good managers who have given me a lot of responsibility and asked quite a bit of me. So what we would get involved in, firstly, we do a lot of pre-match preparation, particularly, you know, I've got 2 members of staff working with me who are brilliant. So I've got a really good team. So, you know, it's not a one-person job. This is a shared out with a really good, and I've got really good trust with my team who produce a good quality of work. But first of all, we do a pre-match prep. So we'll have one of the analysts goes out and watches a game, watches it live, codes that game there. We'll do some work then on video, and eventually we put a report together for the manager, the head coach, to say, these are the strengths, these are the weaknesses of the opposition that we're playing. Again, that's then handed over to the coaching team to make that decision on how they're going to use that information. They will supplement that with the information they've got and the games they've watched. But often we sit in there together and we formulate a game plan. So my next step then is to go with a team and put that together and decide what we're going to show the players of that, because obviously what goes into the coaching staff is a lot more detailed than what we'll show the players. The players only need to know certain elements of that, but they do need to know it. So we go and condense that. The best part then is when you see that being worked on the training ground. So when the coaches go and put that work into the training pitch and work on certain things, certain ways to overcome their weaknesses and certain ways to nullify their strengths. So that's what we see then. And then what we then go into is we go into obviously match day. Using that information throughout the week, we then go into match day. My job on match day, is quite busy. The head coach, very trusting, and I then pick up a lot of set piece management, a lot of, when the team sheets come in, a lot of it comes into me. So, I'm normally quite busy from 1:30 till 2:30 is normally quite a busy time for me. But and then during the game, me and another member of staff, and sometimes we've got someone videoing the game as well. Sometimes there's 3 of us. We will code certain elements. So the full analysis cycle is what we've seen and what we've prepped for earlier in the week, and then we've coached in the week. So we've worked on it. Can we see that? Can we join that circle up on a Saturday? Can we see us doing things that we suggested were worth doing to nullify the opponent? Can we see things of creating chances that we identified that was a weakness of the opposition? That's the perfect analysis cycle. And when you see that happen, it's really a satisfying job. So that's that. And then we'll close that week off with the post-match. So we will put them clips together. We'll show the lads, what they did well, how it fitted into the game plan, and then box that game off and then straight into another one. And going on to that for anyone who, budding analysts out there, that sounds really quite a nice, simple process. The problem being, particularly in the Championship, when you play minimum of 48 games, 46 plus the 2 cup ties, plus whatever run you get. And particularly in the next few weeks when we've got a midweek every week. So we've got 8 games over the course of, 3.5 weeks from now, I think. So the last part of the cycle, the post-match, very, very much intertwines with the pre-match for the next opposition. So, very rarely can you just box it off in that week and then move on to the next one. It's often that you're still working on the next opposition, and sometimes with a busy week, if we've got a Saturday, Tuesday, Friday, you're already 2 games ahead before you've even boxed that one off. And that's why it's really important to have good staff. So someone can be working on that pre-match while somebody else is working on the post-match, while somebody else is doing the live view of that game. So really important to have a good team, behind you.
Yeah, that's very interesting information, actually. And I hope that the people out there watching understand really that how in depth leading clubs analyse matches and prepare for the next game, and a lot of it, as you say, you guys are a filter to the coaches and the players. You take a wealth of information and condense that into the important parts. And I think you mentioned before, Pete, as well, that you also need to know your players. There'll be certain players that would like more in-depth explanations. There's other players that might be more experienced that have played over 300 games in the league and know how to defend a set piece, and they need minimal guidance. But I guess that's all part and parcel of your job, and your previous experience as being a coach and a manager, understanding players as well, helps out in that regard. But it's a fantastic insight into how an analyst prepares for games, and as you say, kind of rounds it off or boxes off with a post-match analysis. Is there any way you can share or show us how you would use InStat tools to prepare for games, for example?
Yeah, of course I can. Can I just go back to a point you just made, Neil, actually, that The interpersonal skills, you know, for anyone going into this profession are really important. You know, you have to know how to get this information across, and that's something we work on quite a bit actually, because like you say, if I go and tell somebody who's played 400 games in the championship that this centre forward will do this, and this, and you know, you've got to be very careful, because yes, he might want that information. He might want, or you've got to read the information that person wants. Like, you know, coaches, managers of, you know, going into that situation of telling them things that they're probably might be more experienced than you know, in that league anyway. They might know the league inside out. So I think how you deliver that information and how you know, deliver those soft skills, those relationship building is a real vital part of an analyst job. Really important. So I think, you know, that's a good point that you just made. But yeah, let me get on to, I'm just going to share my screen. There's all sorts of stuff on here, but let me just share the screen for anyone who doesn't know the product. So if things in the way there. So just we've not got to play leads again. So I thought this was quite a safe one. So this is the information that we get from InStat. So the filters and the access to certain things are really detailed. So on this page, you know, matches, you can watch the full match, ball in play, highlights, etc. The players are involved in that squad with their main statistics in there. The shot map. So if we want to look at the shot map that looks like that, when they want to look at, if you click on one of those and it brings up the information of, that's a shot that was wide from Jack Harrison against Wigan. So if I clicked on that, that would bring a video up. I don't do that right now because of my internet connection, but that would bring me a little video up to show me that, which might be something that we could download and use. If I wanted to have a look at a striker, so look at Patrick Bamford and have a look at where his shot map from. So our centre backs might want that information. You see that there, that a lot of his shots are inside the box. So, you know, just looking for patterns, and the filters are really good for that. Another one I use quite regularly is for set pieces. So in itself, that graph looks very detailed, probably a little bit chaotic. But if I wanted to, I want to have a look across the course of the season, so just filter out all games current season, corners with goals. So that would tell me now that little direction of crosses there will show me all the goals that they've scored from some set pieces. So it's a nice starting position, just to go and have a look, just to check anything on that. That's you know, adds in nicely to a little pre-match. And these are very easy to download, so very easy to click on one of those, download it, you know, trim it, and then that can go into a presentation for the coaching staff. So, you know, the filters are really good on things like that. If I want to know who scored, I could have a look at the goals that, say, Ben White scored from corners. And then on this last one, episode search. So sometimes managers, head coaches, it's quite amusing. Me and my staff laugh at this. They've got something in the head that they've seen, and it's, you know, can you remember when this player did this against this? And you have a look for it. And sometimes it's really quite difficult to find, or they might be, you know, they've got that much going on in their head, coaches and managers. It's such a stressful position that they might have slightly the wrong game or whatever. So looking at things like this can be really good, because to try and, you know, filter down what that instance might be that manager or head coach is after. Just, you know, a few clicks of a button here, a few filters here and there, and suddenly I can look at loads of videos. I can watch 6 episodes and see if that matches a description of what the manager or the head coach has given. So find this page really good, really useful. It's embedded into our week. I know the few head coaches, managers that I've used this and look at, you know, the filters on there of, you know, transitional play and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a really important tool that for us.
Yeah, I remember you did mention before, you know, just such an example, you know, in terms of you can look at counter-attacks, you know, how many goals have Leeds scored from counter-attacks, how dangerous are they in the counter-attack. So you can drill fairly deep and detailed in terms of match actions on the episode search, which is totally useful for an analyst, because it saves time, and ultimately that's a big part of your job. As you say, you've got matches Tuesday, Saturday, or Wednesday, Saturday. You don't really have too much time, so you need to or it's important to have a tool that saves you time and filters the information you need, so you can have it quickly into hand. And interestingly, when you mentioned about episode search, I remember recently someone had asked me a similar thing. I remember Jordan Pickford catching a cross for England 21s 5 years ago, and he kicked early, and it was against Romania, and he kicked early, and he scored. And through the system, it was very easy to get that clip, because on the advanced selection of matches, the guy told me it was either October or November 2016. And by putting in the dates and the match comes up and it's an assist in effect, it was very easy. Within 1 minute, you've got the clip. So the system is very useful for identifying certain actions, as you say, if people can't quite remember exactly where and when. One way or another, you can get to the action fairly quickly, which is obviously useful for you guys.
The time bit's really important, Neil. The time, like you say, knowing, Saturday, Wednesday, and all the clubs in the Championship have got that. And I think, look at some Premier League clubs. I've just looked the other day. I think Man City play Monday, Thursday this week. So, the scheduling for a lot of clubs right now is really tough. So, anything that can be time efficient. The other thing is we watch a large number of games in prep. We watch a large number of full games because we try and get a picture that is as detailed as can be, really. But even in those games, there might be something. There might be, we might watch 8 games of the opposition. In 7 of them, the opposition might mark differently to us. So the set pieces that go into that. So I get all these set pieces from my analysts that come into me, and I look at them and go, they mark differently to us. That's probably quite irrelevant. So again, going on this, this allows me to watch every set piece throughout the season, to look at different things, to be able to filter out. And, if there's not been, I think you can see my cursor there, if in any of the games there's not been a free kick from this kind of region here, that could be a very simple, free kick in here with shots on target. I can suddenly look at one, I know it's slightly different to what I just pointed. I can look at one from there. I can look when it was, look what their setup was, and things like that. So, again, it's that once we've handed over our work, sometimes we go, oh, can you have another example of that? Or can you find another, what happens in this situation? And to be able to go on here and just click a few filters on the episode search is really time efficient and beneficial.
Yeah, no, that is true. You can look at maybe the last 3 matches, 5 matches, and it's probably more relevant. However, over a longer period of time, as you say, if you watch more games, you get a clearer picture as to how people could perform against you, and the episode search does help that's for sure. Which, as you say, you can drill down and go into some detail in terms of specific players or actions, which is very helpful. And in terms of other parts of the InStat Scout system, which other parts would you use before you maybe look at the reports function that we have?
Sorry, on that, Neil, do you mean? Or I'm sorry, going to move on to the reports function there. So yeah, on this, I also think with the data that we get, it can also give you a starting picture as well. If a team, formations on there, a lot of data source on there that gives us a little starting picture to sometimes get, because games in the Championship vary. There's that many of them. Some teams, are consistent throughout. You can watch one game and that will, go over every game they've played that season. It's very typical, and you get a really good picture from that. Others, might change and adapt to the opposition style. There's a big varying, there's varying styles of play and that in the Championship. So, sometimes with the data that we get from here and the games I've played and try and marry that, I take a lot of data and have my own platform that I've built up over years of what managers have asked me over, the 5 managers have asked me certain things. So I often extract data from InStat and things like that and put it on my own desktop. So there we've kind of got, that gives me a picture of what I might be looking for in the games or what I might need to add to the games, things like that. So yeah, that'd be a little starting point for what we do as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, I take that on board, and it is interesting to have the tactic of the opposition. As you say, it's so the games come fast and furious, and people do change from time to time the formation. Again, by virtue of the fact there's so many games, players by very nature become injured or lose form or become tired, and it is a difficult science, I suppose, to predict how someone's going to play. But having a starting point like this certainly helps
Yeah.
in any case. But as you mentioned, of course, as well, Pete, that we supply reports, statistical reports to clubs, and they also factor into your work in terms of pre-game and post-match analysis too, don't they?
Yeah, they do. So this is an example of a plot. I use this one because we played West Brom on Saturday, so it's not upcoming or anything that's going to be. But yeah, this is an example of a report that we get that that certain managers that I've worked with really like to look at this. Take different things from it, and they'll come to you and say, or sometimes you hear little stats like this quoted in pre-match press conferences about the percentage of goals they score from counters, or and again trying to build an early picture of it. These things here, like counter attack, set piece goals, are quite really important, because they, for example, if a team score a high percentage of their goals from counter attacks, then in your live video and things like that, you know that's going to be a key thing. So if we watch, if I watch a couple of games before and that's not prevalent in those games, then I can't overrule that, because actually statistically it says that's one of their main attacking threats. So that tells me that I need to go and watch more, or need to get the staff to watch more, because that's a key part of their play. So again, that's just how we'd start into this. Little things on here, aerial duels, who's key players in scoring attacks and things like that are really important. Formations, average receiving positions, can sometimes tell you a bit of a picture about their shape. Sometimes can be a little bit off-putting in that, if a sub comes on or change a position, it can sometimes skew those positions. But they're quite good for just showing us a team shape. How they attack, key passes, aerial challenges might be important. Penalty takers, I think my staff look at that before they go off and produce their penalty report. And then this one is quite important, because if a team played the same team every single week, you more or less know who's going to take the corners, who's going to go where. You can marry that up. It's quite easy. But often at quarter two on a Saturday, a team comes in and there's lots of different combination of players might be in there. So if Matty Phillips doesn't play on a Saturday, then somebody else will take the corner. But if neither of them play, who will take the corners then? So, and this is information that's in at quarter two, and we've got to turn this around quite quickly, because this has got to go out, get to the players who's going to take corners, who they're going to mark from corners, etc. So this is like the high pressure part of the job of making sure that information's right, because if you give them the wrong information of who's going to be in the box or who's going to take that corner, then that could be a problem. First corner you concede, you lose a game 1-0. You've got to take some responsibility for that, and I do wear that responsibility. So these reports, who's playing, right? If this is a combination of the 10 outfield players who's playing, who's going to take the corners, who's going to be the main target. So only telling you things that Carl Bartley didn't play on Saturday, so suddenly their main cross target wasn't there. So that obviously meant I had to change, be prepared to change one or two things around. So it's just something I just check. So teams come out, I'll just have a little check of this, and it either backs up what I was thinking of doing anyway, or it might just give me that little bit of vital information to change something or match a marker up with somebody that's really important, that can obviously, set piece is really important in games, so it could be vital in the outcome of the game.
Yeah, that's so important in this day and age. Of course, people work in set pieces, and there's a good percentage of goals scored from set pieces, and it is a high pressure environment, as you say. And we are happy at InStat that we are helping or assisting you in your role to make sure that you guys are doing a proper job. As you say, any information that helps and in real time, I suppose, as you say, if the team lines aren't exactly as you expect and certain players aren't playing, then you really have to be on top of it immediately to make sure that the team are prepped up before the match. So yeah, we're very pleased to assist you in this way, shape and form.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do you also use us for opposition match reports, or use our information in that regard?
We have reference to them a little bit. We did start using them, but yeah, no, we don't use them week in, week out. But the reports that are available they've got a good level of detail in them. But yeah, prior to me, I think we did use them. So
yeah. No, that's as I say, it's as you mentioned, it all marries up. With the video platform plus the reports. They all marry together to paint a picture which assists you guys in terms of analysis. Also, in terms of that your role as a tactical analyst is highly important for the club on match days. It can help with the difference between winning and losing points. But also, as you have had a varied role in your career, or various roles in your career, can you also touch briefly on how InStat can be used for recruitment purposes as well? I know it's not your main area at the club, but of course you're aware of how InStat's used in that regard also.
Yeah, I think it's a breadth of the leagues that are available on InStat that's a good selling point. In that some. And like I say, I'm not in recruitment, so I'm only I was a few years ago, probably, was a little bit lower than dealing with the data. I was the live watch, go and put a report back into the head of recruitment. They were the ones dealing with the data, but now I've seen it from this side and, work fairly closely with the head of analysis, the head of recruitment at times. But it's a breadth of leagues that, when you've got recruitment teams who, I'm sure every head of recruitment in the country would want more. They want more staff. They want wider coverage of games, and if they haven't got that, then sometimes being able to filter out players from countries that are very difficult to get to. So let's say, for example, there's a good player in the Belarusian Premier League. You're not going to stumble upon that player. You might stumble upon a really good player in League One, League Two, because you're watching one of our lads who's on loan, and suddenly they jump off the page, and then they become an interest of your recruitment team. But you're not going to do that with a Belarusian, Premier League player. So the data and the breadth and the leagues that are covered by InStat are really important for that, and that might flag up a player that, sometimes our scouts might go out there, but they've got to have a good. They've got to have good knowledge to be able to go out there. You can't just go out there on a whim and make that long journey and all that travel and cost just to look at a player who actually, after 5 minutes you go, no, he's not for us. So the breadth of that, and I'm sure our recruitment team look into that data quite a lot and use a lot of that for their player profiling and things like that. So like I say, not necessarily my field, my expertise, but it's the breadth that is really interesting for that side of the
no, I take your point, and it's something that's entirely valid and practical. As you say, a head of recruitment will always want more staff, but there's a limit to a budget a club can have, and sometimes it's difficult to cover all bases, and hopefully at InStat we help clubs cover all bases in terms of the breadth of the coverage of leagues and countries. And as you say, it's a snapshot of, in terms of data, finding a player who comes out well in performance. And as you say, it's a filter system. You can see the video of that player, and if it's justified and it's a decision the club takes, then at that point, I guess they can spend money going to watch a player live, and it's all via the system, as you say. So I think we are, as I say, we're happy to to have you on board this evening. You're obviously an experienced user of InStat, and you like the product. I think at this point in time, I would just like to put on record my thanks for you joining us this evening. It's been very informative from my point of view, to understand more about your role and how the role of an analysis department determines some of the decisions the club makes pre and post match. And I hope people that have been watching this webinar will take a lot from it. So yeah, once again, Pete, I thank you very much for your input. It's been very enlightening, and it's been a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Dale. Yeah, enjoyed doing that. Yeah, thank you very much for the questions. And yeah, you obviously got to be very careful what the detail you go into, because obviously, you know, there's a lot of things that you'd like to go into more detail, but just got to be careful with. So hopefully I'll give you a little insight, you know, into how we use it. So yeah, hopefully that's been interesting to people. Yeah,
I'm sure it has been. And as I say, once again, I really appreciate you giving up your time. Again, I know it's difficult at this point in time with so many games. So once again, all of us at InStat are really grateful for that, and appreciate you giving the time. Thanks very much, Pete.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks,